Time now to get the latest trends in dive retailing, travel, and training with Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Now, here's your host, Scuba Radio's Greg the Dive Master.
And welcome. I am Greg the Dive Master from Scuba Radio. Check it out every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time. We'd love to have you aboard. But today, we got a very special thing going on. This is the first official podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. And it's a new, relatively new magazine. We're doing an audio version of it, so some of the writers that have written for the magazine can get a little deeper with this podcast called Level Up. And so, who came up with this idea? Well, my good buddy, William Cline, who's been around the dive industry for years. And well, first we'll bring Willie on. How you doing, Willie? Good job on this, by the way.
Just great. Thank you. And I wish I could take credit for this idea, but really it was Mark Young and Jerry Beatty that really came up with this idea and ran a magazine for everybody knows 20 or 30 years in our industry. So they really set the foundation for this to even be possible. So I just talked to Mark yesterday, had a wonderful chat with him, and and I said that to us. I told him, I said, we wouldn't be able to even do this if you hadn't created a way for this to happen for our industry.
Well, no doubt about that. And, we need this conversation, though, in the dive industry. And it's good to bring people together. I mean, we do Scuba Radio every week, and it's more consumer-based. This is really business to business. This is the people in the industry interacting with people that have dive shops, manufacturers, that kind of thing, to do what they can to compare notes to make their business better. And one of the editors at large to help Willie out is my good friend Neil Watson, better known as the Dive God in the dive industry. Neil, how you doing, buddy?
Fantastic. And I want to congratulate Willie on his project, long overdue. The guy's an overnight success after only 30 or so years. That's like great.
Exactly.
And Willie, being the editor, this company car and flying first class, I'm loving it. I'm just loving it. Thanks so much.
Well, there you go. And so, the people behind this project are heavy hitters. And, as Willie brought up, you've pulled a lot of the writers that we've seen in Dive Center Business from years gone by, but just the titans of the dive industry have written articles in this latest issue of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. And we're going to go through some of these articles and some of the writers and dive a little deeper with this Level Up podcast. First up, we got Pat Hammer. I've known him for years from Dive Right Scuba in Chicago. He's written an article called The Ralph Erickson Education Foundation Builds Legacies. And so 2 questions for you, Pat. First off, what is the foundation, and how the heck did you do, teach instructors for 5 decades now? Because you've been around a while, my friend, and I mean that as a compliment.
Well, I appreciate that. The Erickson Foundation, we started that when Ralph passed. He was one of the founders of Patty, the president for years, and his wife and I are really good friends. We decided to try to keep his legacy going. And Ralph did a lot of good things for the industry, developed programs. And one of the things he really did was help dive masters become instructors, even the ones that couldn't afford it. So we raise money and offer instructor training to groups. We don't do individuals, but we do groups. And we'll come into a property, come into an area, and we'll do the IDC for 6, 7, 8 people. And there's no cost to them at all. The cost of an IDC today is somewhere around $3,500, and this is free to them. So we're really glad to do that. The hardest thing today is raising money.
Yeah. But so you're accepting donations? Is that what you're asking for right now? Or
yeah, if you guys could all send a check to no. No, we do fundraising. So we actually just did one down in with EK down in Texas, and we're getting about $1,200 from an IDC.
Well, there you go. Well, that's good. I mean, obviously, when it comes to the dive industry, Neil, bringing more instructors into this fold is a goal for the industry as a whole. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, they're the foundation of the industry. We create no new business without them. And it's a challenge, more folks coming out than going in.
Yeah.
And Pat's done an amazing job over the years. He's done some projects in the Bahamas for Stuart and myself as well. and highly respected. And I don't know how many instructors you've turned out, Pat, but
Yeah.
there's
Well, I think
gotta
you
be
just
a lot of people fighting.
you just crossed a big milestone, I believe, if I read a press release correctly. Is that right, Pat? How many instructors have you done?
I'm all over the place. I think it's something like 13,000.
Jeez.
No, instructors is like 3,000. I'm sorry, 13,000 divers.
Well, 13,000 in my book. I'll go with that one. But 3,000 still crazy, a crazy accomplishment. And good on you, Pat. You've done so much for the dive industry. Continue to do so. And I have no doubt people are going to get some extra words of wisdom from Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, your latest article. So check it out. That's Pat Hammer. He's the man. Willie, who do we got next on the docket here from your writing list?
Well, we have a great friend of ours, Jeff. Jeff is from Rocky Hill. Jeff, Rocky Hill, Connecticut, correct?
Yep, that's it. Rocky Hill, Connecticut.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast Level Up there, Jeff. So you're the owner of Scuba Shack in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and the producer of Scuba Shack Radio, a podcast for your store. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Right. A little bit of a takeoff there. We're not Scuba Radio. We're Scuba Shack Radio.
Well, that's fine. Scuba Shack, not Scuba Shock Radio, which I'm thinking that might have a ring to it, too. But you wrote an article for the new magazine, or the latest edition of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, called Tip of the Spear. So what do you mean, tip of the spear, and how does that relate to dive retailers, Jeff?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because when I first wrote the article, I usually have my wife proofread the articles for me. She's also my partner here at the shop. And she said, "What do you mean by tip of the spear?" And so I guess perhaps my military background came through a little bit, because it's used a lot in the military, the tip of the spear, the troops that are on the front line, that head out there, are right there in the face of either adversity or uncertainty every day. And I kind of thought like a local dive shop is really like the tip of the spear when it comes to the divers or customers looking to become divers. We're on that front line every day, and we have to have a sharp spear to be able to penetrate their needs, their wants, their desires, and how do you sharpen that spear? So that was the kind of the purpose behind the article. I think most local dive shops will agree that they're on the front lines. You know, I know. William tells me that the local dive shops have to create the divers, and we do. Mm-hmm. We create the divers, we sustain the divers. The divers are out there, and they come to us all the time. So I looked at it from a standpoint of across the industry, and there's a lot in the industry, and I call it fragmentation. That might have a bad connotation, but it's diversity, it's choice, it's options. And the local dive shop, we're really faced with making those choices to sharpen our spears across that fragmentation. For example, just look at the number of training agencies that are out there. I mean, the list is pretty large. And as a local dive shop, you have to select which ones are you going to affiliate with. And more importantly, if you are going to affiliate with multiple agencies, how do you relay that onto your customer? You have to be sharp in the value proposition that each of your choices makes. So those are some of the things that I think about when I think about the fragmentation or the diversity or the options in the dive industry. Again, I see it here all the time. There's so many different manufacturers, dealers, distributors that are on the market. They come all the time. Walk on the DEMA floor and you want one of everything. But as a dive shop, you have to make choices along the line and then create that proposition back to the consumer around why you made the choices, what you're doing, and be sharp and focused every day.
Love it. I mean, tip of the spear, front line. Dive stores are definitely in that role. Tip of the spear is the name of the article in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Good stuff. Jeff. And once again, tip of the spear article has nothing to do with stabbing anybody, right, Jeff?
No,
Just for the
we
record.
don't stab. I feel like I'm the one. I feel like I'm the one getting stabbed all the time.
Okay, right. I kid.
So what's cool about Jeff is last month that he's talking about the article that's coming out in April. That's in the mail here in the next few days, or it should be in the mail already. But the article he wrote last month, Greg, was a great article at 101 how to podcast. Exactly what we're doing right here. And he outlines the equipment, the platform, software, everything. So pick up the March issue. It's a great article, and it has the one with the whale shark on the front cover. But that's a great, and I want to say thanks again because that was a really great article.
Yeah.
And we've had great feedback on that artitle.
Good stuff.
Thank
for
you.
sure. All right. Well, let's move on to our next victim. Article writer, Rich Thomas. Wrote an article in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine called The Big Event. Now, Rich you own 2 stores, International Scuba in Dallas and in Frisco, Texas. Is that right, Rich? I want to make sure I get that right. All right, well, welcome. So The Big Event, harnessing the power of dive events for a store. So my question is about ice diving. You do this, even though you're in Texas. So how did that help you as far as an event in Texas exactly?
It brought people together and for the adventure of it, and they keep coming back because of the community and the lifestyle. And I think that's what our divers are looking for is they want a lifestyle similar to Harley Davidson or surfers, and they don't want to see shops competing. They want us to, we're like mom and pop. They don't want to see us arguing. They want to see us working together.
Yeah.
And collaborating together to create an event it gets everybody excited and everybody benefits from it. The thing I can't do a big party, a huge party, but if I get several of my shop friends, we could put together a pretty big event that gets people's attention.
Yeah.
And I miss the days of I've talked to Willie about this before, the Bon Air Dive Fest. I went in there as a new diver and was just blown away by everybody working together and all the celebrities, and we need more of that and more events.
Well, it's a social sport, right? It's about bringing everybody together, and it doesn't matter when it comes to diving, whether it's warm water in the Caribbean or ice diving. You're up there diving an ice hole. I mean, who doesn't want to get it up there? And so is that what you did? You participated in one of those type of ice diving events and brought some of your Texas divers up there?
Yeah. Well, I had one diver that wanted to try it, so I said, let's go up and do it. And then the people up there came to help, and they said, hey, if you'll come back next year, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
And every year it's grown, and we had around 100 participants this year.
Yeah.
Working with other shops is fun. I've got shops from Florida and Georgia and Canada and California now. It's really easy to collaborate with people that aren't in your backyard.
Well,
it's much harder to collaborate with your neighbor.
No doubt. And well, that makes sense. But once again, it's about the experience. Even if you're in Florida like myself or the dive god Neil, we both consider ourselves warm water wusses. I love talking about doing this ice diving stuff, and I love following it. I mean, there's that whole issue of shrinkage, but you got to get through that, right, Neil? You just kind of deal with that stuff sometimes, right?
It falls a little out of my 80 diving range where the water temperature has to be at least 80,
right?
Air temperature 80, and visibility 80. But I've done some cold water diving, and it is pretty exciting.
It is, and it brings people together. It's all about the experience. You got to kind of at least mark it off the list for sure. Well, that's good stuff, Rich. Thanks for the insight.
One question follow up for you, Richard. How do you promote those events? How do you get these people to show up?
I promote myself through Facebook and social media, but what's really helped is I invite shops to participate. We set the event up, and they just have to show up with their customers. We teach them how to teach the ice diving, so it's staying all within their shop. They're creating revenue in their shop in February when it's usually a down time. So that's how we spread the word. We're really trying to spread the word to the dive shops so they can bring their clientele.
Mm-hmm. I just like talking about ice holes and being able to get away with saying that on a broadcast radio, but it's tricky, trust me. But good stuff indeed, Rich. Appreciate that. All right. Our next author from Scuba Diving Industry Magazine is our buddy Tom Ingram from the Demo organization. Tom, Big Kahuna, CEO, Grand Poobah. of the Diving Equipment and Marketing Association. Welcome. You wrote an article. Well, no, you didn't write an article. You're just getting ready for the dive show. We got to check in on what's coming up for DEMA this year in Vegas, right?
That's right. That's right. And thank you guys for having me here. And William, congratulations on all this. I think it really is a very well needed program for us, for the industry. And, speaking of events that Rich was talking about, DEMA Show is in fact one of those events. Yeah, there you go. So we do have an ad on the back page.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of wrote an article.
We're kind of in there. Yeah, we're kind of in there. It's all right. Yeah. But yeah. So 2024, we're coming up on one more DEMA show, and we're heading back to Las Vegas. So we're back over on the left coast, almost to the left coast, where we typically get a lot of the divers from California and Washington and Oregon. It is, as you know, California is still number one in the country as far as the number of divers that are certified there every year. So it's a really important market for us to be there. As a result, there's an awful lot of dive stores in California and Oregon and Washington as well as in even in Nevada and all of the other surrounding states. So it's a great place for us. We also draw from the Asian market coming overseas into the DEMA show. So that's one of those populations that we often see come in, both in terms of exhibitors and attendees. So it's a great place for us. Las Vegas is going to be a little bit different this year for us. We have a really exciting event that's going to be taking place right after DEMA show stages. That actually starts on Saturday. Our show is from the 19th to the 22nd of November. So we're running from Tuesday to Friday. And come Saturday, there will be a Formula One race that will take place in town. And of course, that's going to have its own little challenges because you have a lot of people that are going to be coming into town, but it's great because it's after the show. And it's also nowhere near the convention center or the hotels where DEMA show is taking place. So it's not a conflicting issue, but it's kind of an exciting one for those people that want to stay around.
Yeah, piggyback a Formula One race onto the DEMA show this year. Why not? I know a lot of people planning on that.
Book your rooms now if you want to go.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think housing has been open for a little while now, and we still have lots of room nights available for all of our attendees and exhibitors in our two hotels at the Westgate and also at the Renaissance. Renaissance sold out once, but we doubled the room nights available, so there's still some rooms that are available. Lots of rooms in the Westgate just yet, and so you do need to book soon because once we get in close to about 30 days out from the show, we'll have to close it down, and that means that it's open for Formula One race folks to get in there. And then the other part of this that you really need to do now, right now, I've already booked mine. I booked mine in February, and that's your flight. Get in there because, as you know, airlines are on-demand pricing, and as we get closer to that time frame where the Formula One race and DEMA show are taking place, those flights are going to get booked up and they're going to get more expensive. So do it now so that you don't run into a problem. Registration is open. We've been open for about 2 weeks, I guess now. And that's about 6 weeks ahead of where we normally are so that folks can get themselves in and start getting registered for all of the events that are taking place during DEMA show. And of course, that's the exhibit floor where we're going to have close to 500 exhibitors that will be displaying their goods. There's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 7,000 to 10,000 attendees floating around the show floor. So it's going to be pretty crowded, but it's an exciting time, and we look forward to it every year because it gives us an opportunity to do professional development for the industry. It also gives us a chance to show our wares and, of course, network and get together again. Mm-hmm. So that thing that Rich was talking about before, where you have an opportunity to meet with people that you want to collaborate with, or you want to talk to, or you just want to see them again because they're your friend. DEMA show is a great place to do that, and so we invite the professional part of the industry, and we're looking forward to seeing you all in November.
And I'll tell you what, when it's in Vegas, industry has a tendency to let their hair down just a tad. It gets a little
Just
crazy in Vegas, baby. It makes it more fun, if you ask me. I love it. And you know, I live in Orlando where the DEMA show shows up, but I love going to Vegas. And, you know, what happens in Vegas shows up on Facebook and all that kind of good stuff. But it's a great time in the evening hours to connect with your dive industry friends, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. I know you are too, Neil, right? You'll be out there as usual.
I've had the pleasure of being on the DEMA board probably more times than DEMA wanted me to be. But, you know, it's the only industry trade event we have in the world. And it's the only opportunity to get face time with all 5 of the stakeholder groups. I could spend 365 days a year traveling all over the United States as well as the world and not get the face time I can get in those 4 days at DEMA. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's absolutely critical if you want to be successful in this industry to participate and support DEMA.
Yeah. There's only so much you can do on Zoom and email and phone calls. I mean, when you get face-to-face, that's really what the DEMA show is all about, making those connections, and that's what I love. And Willie, you'll back me up on this. I mean, it is like a family reunion after you've done it a couple years, maybe 2 years. You're part of the family.
Exactly.
I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I'm gonna segue from the DEMA show and let Tom have a minute or two more. We are just closing out on a study that is super relevant to this audience. And I'll let Tom talk about that because we have right here in attendance, well, Pat's not with us right now, but 4 retailers, for instance, out in this group. And we have something that he's going to talk about that's very relevant to retailers today.
Yeah. So thanks, William. We've got lots of things that we're doing, and as it turns out, DEMA also does an awful lot of industry-wide research. One of the studies that we just completed is a research in retail operations and advertising. So it's a 2-part blueprint for growth surveys that we did at the end of last year, end of 2023. That was an operational survey, and so that is available in the DEMA store, and it tells you it's a benchmarking study. So folks that are looking for more information about what everybody else in the industry is doing in terms of how they're setting up their retail operations, that information is critical. And then we just completed the advertising version of this blueprint for growth with information about what retailers are doing from an advertising standpoint and what is working for them. So all of that information is critical. It's available to members at no cost. It's a low cost for non-members, and you can get it on DEMA.org at the DEMA store. Lots of information in there that's quite useful. You're also going to find other pieces of research that we've been fortunate to be able to put together. Lots of diver behavioral studies that have been done both for the U.S., it's actually for U.S., for Canada, and for all of the contributing countries that had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10,000 respondents. So some very important data, some very helpful information for understanding what folks are doing as divers, whether they're traveling or whether they're buying equipment or whether they are going into continuing education or whatever it happens to be. So along those lines, we're going to continue to do some things as well with our public policy efforts. And so you've probably seen some things come out from us regarding the Dive Boat Act, which is a situation that occurred a few years ago when we had a fire on board one of the dive boats out there, which then triggered a lawmaker to create a regulation that's now caused insurance rates to go right through the roof. So we're trying to get some of that fixed. We've been at it for a little while trying to do that. And along those lines, lots of other public policy efforts are going on too, including the opportunity to do some public policy webinars that are going to take place. We've already done one this year on California's Prop 65 and also on the PFAS, forever chemicals that are out there and some of the regulatory things that are happening with that. And we've got 2 others that are coming up later on this year. So keep an eye out for all of that stuff. But DEMA is really very active, not only on the show, but we're doing things from a research standpoint, from public policy, as well as helping everybody to understand a little bit more about benchmarking for each of the stakeholder groups. So thanks.
No doubt about it. I mean, DEMA.org is the place to start. If you're in the industry and you're not a member, what the heck is wrong with you? You need to be involved. But there is a plethora of resources there on the website, and they're there to just make your dive business just a little bit better. Good stuff, Tom, as always, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. We got one more writer to talk to. This is actually, she's going to represent Tom Leard. She's the daughter of Tom and GM of the dive store, Tom Leard.
Correction on that. I was wrong. She looked so young. I thought she was Tom's daughter, but turns out she's not Tom's daughter.
Oh, so she's just a co-worker
that he knows of, I guess.
All right. Well, a daughter figuratively. Possibly.
That's probably true, yes.
Brooke Speedy is her name. Brooke, welcome. And you're going to help us kind of meander through Tom Leard's underwater service in Muncie, Indiana, and the article he wrote about our take on training new divers. 7-week open water courses is what you guys are doing. So tell me, how does the length of the course translate to, translate into returning students? What can you tell us?
Hi, so we have always taught this kind of extended full education course over here. And the best thing that it provides for us is time. So this extra time and kind of connection with our students has allowed us to build real strong relationships with them that translates into their learning and kind of directly correlates with the length of their diving lifetime. So we are 7 hours or 7 weeks,
right?
2 hours in the classroom every night, 2 hours in the pool every night. So it's enough kind of hands-on time to get these people excited. My favorite part about it is in between, since we're just meeting once a week, in between these sessions, they come into the store. They have lots of questions about gear, about the industry. And the biggest thing that's come from it is that we've found that over 50% of them come back for some form of continued learning.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 50%. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, the more time you spend together, the closer you're going to become, both professionally and personally, I would imagine. That's kind of how it works, huh, Brooke? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Another great outcome is that 80% of them, we found that 80% of our new students for open water come from their referral. And sometimes it's from somebody that just took the class, but sometimes it's from somebody that took the class years ago, and they've just been diving, talking about it with their friends, their coworkers. They remember the training they received. They still go on trips annually, either with us or without us, with you guys out there in the industry. So we've found that we're creating divers that stay active. We've had a dive club here in town that's been active for 57 years.
Wow.
57. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them, most of them came from our shop, and they love diving and they can do it locally, which is rare, or people think it's rare here in the Midwest. But I was excited to hear about Rich and his ice diving event. Because one of our most popular continued education classes is our ice diving class.
I bet. You're right in the heart of it in the winter months, it sounds like, Brooke, right?
Yep.
So you got to make friends to stay warm, if nothing else. Is that fair?
I thought Tom had sent me an email and I couldn't find it. I was looking for it. But didn't you see you guys had something like 34 students in your open water class right now, or some fairly significant number? Or just
We've got 3 classes going in a total of about 40 students.
Wow. That's impressive. That's good stuff. But the more time you spend together, the more chance you're going to become friends, get those referrals after they go through a course. They say, hey, I met this cool lady, Brooke Speedy, at Tom Leard's Underwater Service. She's the adopted daughter of Tom. But but they're so friendly. I got to know them over, this long week course. You ought to go with them. They're awesome folks. That's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah. I actually got certified over 15 years ago through one of our extended classes at the college. And I got kind of so enthused with it that I minored in scuba diving and it became my life. So that longer course really gets people excited and makes you realize you can do things that you may not think you can in life.
Well, there you go. And you become one of the group, part of the family. That's kind of what it ends up developing into. I know that's been the case after doing Scuba Radio for 27 years. I get to hang with cool people like the dive god Neil Watson and Willie Cline from this new magazine, Scuba Diving Industry. It's great stuff. Agree with me on that, Neil, or would you rather distance yourself from me?
No. Actually, I had the pleasure of serving on the DEMA board with Tom, and he is one sharp, dedicated guy. And I think he's the only guy in the industry older than me. I think he's like 2 days older than me. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But he's a great guy, and here again has turned out a lot of divers over the years.
Well, there you go. Good stuff for sure. Willie, any final thoughts before we
I'm going
wrap
to
it
ask
up?
Our esteemed writers, do you have any final thoughts, Jeff, Brooke, Richard, Tom, before we go here? And something Brooke didn't mention, her formerly used to work for, which is like 10 years ago, for Scuba Shack in Brentwood, Tennessee, right? And I think, as I recall, they called the guy Daddy Shack, right? I was in Bonnier. I was in Bonnier years ago doing some work for the government down there, and I think it was Captain Don's for a function they were holding there, and he ran into this guy, and we started chatting, and I said, I'm a dive shop. I got a dive shop in Tennessee. Oh, great. Do you got any students here? I said, you got a group here? Well, yeah. And well, what do you mean? He says, well, we book 4 weeks. I think it was at the time, right? Of Captain Don's or Buddy's or one of the resorts. They book the entire resort for 4 weeks and bring their customers down week after week after week. And I think he told me it was like 50 or 60 or some giant number. Now, this is a long time ago, but I was like, what? I said, how in the world do you do this kind of group business? He says, well, we start selling it the minute we get back from this trip. We sell it all year long. We hold pizza parties. We hold film festivals. We do everything and promote this thing. He said, it's not just a one-time thing. We sell it all year long. Every month there's some event that pushes this particular weeks of Bonaire dive travel. So and you were involved with him at those times, weren't you, Brooke, back then?
Yeah, he does a real good job of getting new students and kind of repeat students excited about dive travel, especially to places like that where he loves to go. He sees the value in it, and we're great at educating new divers about it. And so it's really great, the memories you can get from those trips.
Thanks, Brooke.
No
Richard,
doubt.
Jeff, anything else you want to say? I take that as a no. So I want to thank our esteemed editor-at-large, Neil Watson, of course, and all of our writers that wrote for us. There's several that couldn't be here today: Stephen Frank, Catherine Castle-Garcia, a few other folks, Peter Letts in Australia, Terry Cummins in Australia couldn't also make it. But next month, hopefully, we're going to have a few more folks that are able to join us. And thank you again, Greg, for producing the show for us.
Yeah, well, no worries. Yeah, next month, I hear we're going to connect with Amos Nachum, the big animal guy.
I would love to show you a preview of the cover, but Amos says that there are 12 people that have walked on the moon. There's only 5 that have scuba dived with polar bears.
Right.
And he's one of 5 on the planet, and that's going to be
They started with 6, but
I guess so.
No,
right?
I'm kidding.
Now they're down to 5. But yeah, he's already agreed to give us a cover. We've got a beautiful mock-up of him underwater with his camera shooting polar bears from looking up to the surface. It's just spectacular.
Yeah, and he's a very interesting guy on many, many levels. So that'll be next time for Level Up, the Scuba Diving Industry podcast that we've put out there for you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And we're going to wrap it up for now, though. I'm Greg the Dive Master from Scuba Radio. Check it out, scubaradio.com. And just remember, it's always better down where it's wetter.
This has been Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Produced by Scuba Radio and the Cline Group. For more info, go to scubadivingindustry.com.